Hello, lovely people of the world, and welcome back to Spiritual Superhero, the show where we talk about how you can step into your inner greatness and unleash your soul's creative calling. And I'm so excited for this conscious conversation because we are joined here today with Bodhi Simpson. Welcome.
Hello, Adrienne. Thank you.
And we're actually going to be delving in the world of therapy. And I guess art therapy, really. And the conversation that we're going to deep dive in is all about creative wellness. And so a little bit about Bodhi. She is a licensed clinical professional counselor in the state of Maine and a registered art therapist with the Art Therapy Credential Board. She has a private practice in Waterville, Maine called Conscious Art Therapy. She is a past president of the Maine Mental Health Counselors Association, is a co-founder of Vast Horizon Center for Personal Growth in Brunswick, Maine, co-creator of the annual Self-Compassion Symposium in Freeport, Maine, and co-founder of Wisdom Journeys, LLC. She's currently pursuing her PhD in Wisdom Studies at Wisdom University. So please give a warm welcome to Bodhi.
Hi, Adrienne. Thanks so much.
Okay, I'm actually like so excited to delve into this because one of the things we talked about before we hopped on this call is like holding space for heaviness. And I've always seen art as something therapeutic for me. And I would love to really delve into this world because I also think like mental health is like so important. And I'm so happy that we're holding space for this conversation.
Yes.
So as we dive in, so we said this conversation is going to be all about creative wellness. And I wanted to know what that meant to you. Is that like, do we create our wellness, or is it through creativity that we create wellness? Like, what does that phrase mean to you?
Oh, that's such a great question. So let's see. So I'm an art therapist, and so I pursued the degree of art therapy because as a child growing up, I always expressed myself in creative ways, and I didn't always have words for what I was going through, so it was a natural fit for me. But simply the act of creating or just simply the act of expression is healing. And there's so many ways that people express. So it could be creative writing, it could be painting or drawing, it could be poetry, it could be music, it could be movement, it could be the way you cook, the way you garden. So I just want to start this conversation by saying, kind of looking at the bigger picture for yourself around what does that mean for you? How do you most comfortably express yourself? And although I'm an art therapist, really a big part of my job is to help people find what that is. You know, because people will come in saying, well, I'm not an artist. And, you know, when we were kids, we were all artists of life. We were all just free and doing our thing. And so the field of art therapy, the way that the lens we look through is kind of with, you know, the act of creating is a healing, but art therapy helps to build a bridge from what you've created to yourself. So to really help you to build a relationship and to understand what you've expressed and what it's telling you. So whatever it is you've expressed through art or writing or poetry, it becomes a mirror back to you of your own state of consciousness, of your own choices, of the emotional frequency that you're vibrating at. And also it becomes a clearing. It becomes a flow. And in the beginning, you talked about holding space for the heaviness. You know, in art therapy, in creative wellness, we don't run from the heaviness. We invite it in and we sit with it. And we be with it and we learn from it. And it could be for a long time until we notice things start to shift. So, well, I guess in a few words, creative wellness is really holding space to be with yourself. And then once you're able to do that and to clear, then you can consciously create what you would like to be stepping into. But you have to do become aware first. Mm-hmm. And so also in what you create, you can rise above. And it creates this witness perspective where when you're in it, you know, your life is so busy and and people can't see their way out of it sometimes, or they're just so pulled emotionally to all the energies around them. When you create and you develop this witness perspective, you're not as emotionally tied in, and then you can really start to see clearly, oh my gosh, look at what I've been doing to myself. Yeah. And then the other thing I should say really quickly is art can be an anchor. So it's so easy to go back to your life. So you do your art, you're like, wow, you're contemplating, you're learning, and then you go back to the busyness of your life, and then you forget. And then maybe 3 months later, you're like, oh yeah, I remember I did that cool thing. So by creating art, you can also use it, as I have many things around my office, as an anchor, so that when you look at it, it's that tangible something that it communicates with your subconscious mind, which communicates to your body, which can facilitate healing just by using anchor. So there's a lot of different ways we can use creativity as wellness.
Oh my gosh, you just unpacked so many things. We had clearing, we have being present with the heaviness, we have like, oh my gosh, so many things to unpack here. Okay, where do we play? I think let's talk about like the clearing, because I feel like do you feel like, because you said that we're all like artists, as we're young, like as we're children, we're just completely self-expressed, we're completely artists, and so this idea of clearing, to me, like the imagery that comes up is that there's things in the way. And so we're clearing them. So what are those things that are in the way? And then what are these clearing practices?
Yes. So using creativity as clearing is, for instance, for art therapy, it's really not about being a good artist. It's about the process of creating. And so it's just simply taking time to be with yourself, to be with how you feel, and expressing it outside of yourself. So sometimes it's as simple as you may have some pastels and you just kind of choose the colors that represent kind of the vibe that you're feeling, and you're expressing it outside of yourself. It could also be, maybe you're working on this beautiful artwork and it's bringing up some, because you're consciously creating, you're noticing that it's bringing up some feelings inside of you. And so it's, as you're creating, it's using it as a practice to notice where you're feeling resistance, where you're feeling blocked. And as you're creating, so as art therapists, we're able to kind of reflect back to you your process. So if you're doing this on your own, you're going to want to notice, like, what kind of thoughts am I having? What kind of feelings am I having? And as you're creating and clearing, it's kind of like you're getting deeper and deeper to the root of curiosity, of like, where did this come from? Where did I believe that I wasn't a good artist? And when I go deeper, where did I believe that I wasn't good enough? And, so it's like this, the clearing is just allowing things to arise, but consciously. Because a lot of times people create art and they're like, oh, this is pretty, and you sell it and you send it off. And people don't take the time to be with necessarily what's coming up for them, so that they can, so by just creating is clearing, but there's a whole nother level of just being aware of what you're clearing. You don't necessarily have to label it, because a lot of emotions and experiences, especially trauma, is deeper than words. But it's just being with it, acknowledging it, and allowing it to kind of fizzle as you're being with it.
Yeah, there's so much power in just being present. And it's something that I'm getting present to as you're sharing, is like this idea of wellness. There's a part of me that feels like wellness means like we're supposed to be happy. We're supposed to be feeling abundant, joyous, and this and that. And the piece that's like, that I'm also getting out of like your sharing, is that there's nothing wrong with being sad, or there's nothing wrong with all these other emotions that we kind of like typically characterize as negative. And the way I'm picking that up is because you were saying just be present with it, like be with it. Like if you create an art piece that like makes you cry because it reminds you of like this moment in your life where you were so heartbroken, it's like, instead of like shoving that away, or just like, I don't know, like there really is like power in being present to that and not making it wrong.
Right. Yes. It has to be safe. You have to have safe space to do this work. You know, a lot of us so easily we want to fix it. And so we'll draw sunshines and rainbows and I'm just like happy all the time and I'm just going to be this beam of goodness in the world. And so people will come in with this. And sometimes it takes a whole session to help people to really get to the truth of what's underneath that. And so in the creating, you know, people are afraid. People are afraid. They know that they have stuff at their core and they're not really sure what's going to happen if they let it out. Because a lot of these things, like I said before, they're deeper than words and a lot of them kind of happen before we even had words for them. And so it's really you're providing a safe container for yourself to allow, kind of taking the lid off of your stuff. And we've kept it down for a reason. And it, you know, it served a purpose at the time to put a lid on it. But as long as you hold space for your stuff, then you can also start to bring in the light. And so it can be both. It doesn't have to be only heavy, but life isn't always sunshine and rainbows either. So there are just different practices you can do to clear. And then the next step is to then bring in this new energy now that you've kind of cleared away some of the heaviness and then bring them into balance.
Yeah, there's like this neutrality to it. Yeah, this is really cool. And then something that's like okay, I'm just getting really present to my like creative journey, which is why I'm kind of like, like I'm just like actually like being present with it because like I started writing a lot of poetry, a lot of lyrics, and that was like my mode of art therapy, I guess. There was a time in my life where I was really, really sad. Like I was depressed, but like a secret kind of depressed. Like everybody thought I was happy, but I was like crying myself to sleep almost every night. And it was like, I did do like regular therapy. And that definitely helped because I was like, I did not know how to express myself and my feelings because I really lived in that world of like being sad is wrong, being depressed is wrong. So don't let anybody know that that's what's happening. And so I'm just really getting present to that like part in my life and how like all these different like artwork and the other beautiful thing that you said was like, you know, we create this art like more so like just for the progress of it and not really like for perfection. Like I think it's also really beautiful to like, you know, strive for creating the best art that you could create. And there's also the beauty in what you're sharing where it's like just create, to learn, to discover different pieces of you. Because that was definitely like a really, really important part of my journey with my poetry and my art. Like I would write certain songs where it's like I put so much anger into it. And then once it was in there, it was like, shoo, I could just like be with it and then be like, okay, I'm complete with this. And like never have to sing that song again because if I did, it just brought it all right back up. So there's like certain pieces that I'm okay with burying this and like kind of having a death to that. And then there's some pieces that's like I want to keep this forever because this actually makes me feel great.
Right. Yeah. It's the goal is just to create for your own healing space, but it doesn't mean it's not going to inspire something that you can create from that or that you could share with the world when you're out of it. So you stay with it until you notice that you're out of it. So there's not an energetic pull anymore.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so beautiful, man. Art and healing. For you and in your journey of like with art there, because this is actually like a world that's like completely new to me. Like I feel like I've never actually worked with an art therapist. I've never really like, had conversations with an art therapist. I'm kind of like there's all these questions. So what does that process of healing like look like for you? Is it like different for everybody or like I don't know, this is like a whole new world?
Yeah, it's different for everybody. So it's kind of one of those things, you know, when you graduate college as an art therapist, you kind of taught these little cookie cutter
Mm.
openers, but over time you develop a clinical intuition to really, the goal is to help create safe space with the person you're working with and help them. I guess I help mirror themselves back to them so that they can feel their own truth. And the other cool thing about imagery in particular is that you can't run away from it. I put it right next to me on the couch. So I have an image here. I put it right next to me, and then you're sitting there and you are being with your image and you're looking with it, and it becomes another being in the room. And so, you know, with talk therapy, it's so easy to say, oh, yeah, but oh my gosh, I did this thing yesterday. And then you just totally shift the conversation. Um, so I really enjoy helping people to be with their stuff because it's so easy. And I guess the other thing is like, you can create an image in 5 minutes and we can have a whole session on that. And so, you know, it's so easy to avoid our stuff. And in talk therapy, you can talk for a whole hour. And then in the last 5 minutes, they'll say, oh yeah, I should have told you this at the beginning, but blah, blah, blah. And then they leave. Where a lot of times people create this raw emotion and they're creating it from their subconscious. So they'll be like, I have no idea what this means. It really is just a bunch of scribbles. It means nothing to me. And then when they sit with the energy of it and they feel the truth in their heart about what it's telling them, they are like in tears and they have these epiphanies. And I've had people come in and, you know, they've been in therapy for 30 years and they'll have 3 sessions and they'll feel like they've accessed the root of their issue. And that's just simply by holding space to be with their own expression. So it's pretty powerful work, really. You know, and if you look around cultures across the world, a lot of ancient cultures use creativity as healing and as expression. So it's universal to being a human.
Yeah. Yeah, art is so deeply in the core of what it means to be human, at least for me and my perspective.
Yeah.
Just creation in general. And like yes, we're talking about like art, yet like in this process of like creating this art, we get so present to all these emotions, and it's like being present to our emotions and being conscious and how we shape how we feel and how we live. It's like that plays such a powerful role in how we also like create our life and create all these different aspects in our life. Like
Yeah.
when I started this series, it was like, well, I did like 2 series before this called The Thriving Artist. And a lot of times people were like, well, isn't it just about art? Are you just talking about art? And like when they thought about art, they thought about like sculptures and painting, and just traditional, I guess, like art, right? And I was like, no, like art and creation and like the fullest spectrum of it, right? Like the art of creating abundance in our life, the art of creating happiness, the art of creating deep intimate relationships. Like that's what I want to dig into this.
You're right. Yeah, we are creating our realities, whether we realize it or not. And creativity helps you to realize it and feel the energy of it and then step into your life more consciously. It ripples out into everything that you do.
And I found there's so much wisdom that's just like power packed into art. And I'm just getting also present to in your bio, you're pursuing your PhD in wisdom studies. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, I found that program because it's an amazing independent study program that, you know, it's global. We're traveling around the world to sacred places and learning ancient teachings and bringing them back into the world. So it's creativity is part of humanness. It's from the beginning of time, and so I'm just learning about ways that other cultures use it and bringing it back into maybe a way that people can understand it in today's world, because we heal ourselves, but I feel like humans forget this. And so this is just, you know, one path, one tool to help you remember.
Can we delve into that a bit more when you said we heal ourselves? Because like immediately I'm like, yeah, I can see that. Like, you know, if you cut yourself by accident, it's like your body will eventually heal it. But I feel like there's more depth to when you said we heal ourselves.
Yeah. A lot of times we're searching outside of ourselves, and I feel like it's how we're taught, go to the doctor, this is happening, go do this. And then when I start talking to people and we get, they have these illnesses or these injuries, and we go deeper and deeper and deeper, there's so much tied into their story. And what I find is we just need space, whether somebody else is holding it with us or we're holding it for ourselves, to listen to our bodies, to connect to ourselves, to connect to the energies around us, to connect to what's out of balance in our lives, and to put energy into bringing our lives back into balance. And that's where the healing comes in. And so, when people come in, I let them know I'm holding space for you to heal. You're healing yourself. I'm mirroring back to you your own truth, and your truth because you feel it in your heart. And I guess, if you look at ancient times, I've been working a lot with the symbol of the circle. They had medicine wheels, sacred circles, healing space that they created intentionally to step into to heal themselves. And so that's the work, is finding how do you create safe healing space for yourself to be present and to listen and to bring your own life back into balance. And I feel like a lot of times people, they're in this process of just so busy and they're kind of avoidant of the truth. And all it requires is coming into your heart and being honest with what the truth is. And a lot of times our heads don't want to believe the truth. So the truth may be, this whole chunk of people needs to not be in your life because they are making you very sick, the patterns that you're tied into with them. Or it could be, this environment that I'm living in is not healthy for me, or this job that I have is literally making me sick. And so I feel like, it's really about holding space to be honest with yourself. And then, so I have a lot of people that come in with major life changes that they know they need to make, and they just need some support. They step into their truth and they're happier than they've ever been in their life. Know how to heal ourselves. We don't always take the time to be really honest with ourselves,
And to
truly listen to me.
Yeah. And to just like truly listen. That's also like the big piece that I'm getting out of that.
Yeah. Because we know if we really get to people will say, I think, and I'll say, you think, but what does your heart tell you? Well, my heart tells me this. Like they know, as soon as they go into their heart, they know the truth, but they'll spend a whole lifetime avoiding it.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not spend the whole life holding yourself back from that. So a lot of what these conversations are about is like really like stepping into your inner greatness. And it sounds like that's what that is. It's like listening to the wisdom that's within. And what if we're like listening to this and we're like, okay, I get it on a theoretical space where it's like, okay, I just need to listen to myself. But like in a practical way where we can actually like exercise this and like build the muscle of like trusting ourselves and just listening to ourselves and even maybe hearing ourselves, because maybe we've gotten so used to like discounting or just like not even considering that like the innate wisdom, because we're so like you were saying, like just so in the busyness, so just prioritizing outside. Yeah, like what are some like, how can we like ground this and kind of give practical tools that we can do?
So it's the number one thing is finding a daily practice. And when I say daily practice, it's okay if it's not exactly every single day, but some kind of practice that you revisit and revisit that provides that safe space for your grounding and for your connection. And as you read in my bio, I do a lot of teachings on self-compassion. And so in my work with people who are either creating or just talking, I find that a lot of people block themselves from loving themselves. They're coming in because they're completely burnt out of life. They give everything to everybody around them all the time. They make everything work for everybody around them, but it's like they don't really exist. And a lot of times when we're working on healing, we do so much deep work, but then there's this block. And a lot of times the block is that some part of them does not believe that they are good or that they are worthy of healing. Some part of them believes that they're a terrible person. I mean, there's all these little beliefs and these little situations that have happened in their life that have caused their heart to close up. And so in this healing space that you're setting for yourself, or this daily practice, it's how do you find space to be with how you feel, to open up your heart and just clear and release, the pain, the heaviness that's in there, and get to that space where you're wide open. And when you're wide open, you're able to not only give love to others, but to fully receive love from yourself. Until your heart is open, you're blocked from receiving. And with self-compassion, it can be done through creativity. So I'll just talk to you about this little practice that I've been working on lately. A lot of people have heard of mandala work, but I've also been working with medicine wheels lately. And so I started painting. I don't know, maybe it's Pride Month, I don't know. I've been painting a lot of rainbows, and so I just started painting the rainbow, and I traced a plate, and then I just kind of was tuning into the vibrant colors. And a lot of times when I do mandala work, I'm actually painting the whole center. So this could be a practice where you trace a plate and you could be clearing into the mandala, or it could be symmetrical or beautiful art. But while you're doing that, you're allowing patterns to arise, allowing thoughts and beliefs to arise, and you have the witness perspective, and you're just getting curious, and you're noticing. You're not judging. You're just like, huh. And in this work, you have to be in your body. It's not done in your head. And so the wisdom comes through. I do a lot of, I keep touching my heart. The wisdom comes through your heart, or your body. So allowing that space to be with. And so for me, instead of the creating, I've actually taken this and I hang it on my wall. Practices lately, I just sit with it. It's got more of, I've already done my clearing, that's away. This is more of what I want to bring into my life. It's the vibrant colors. And before I do my meditative practice, I just imagine stepping into that circle. So this is my sacred space that I've created for myself. So I imagine sitting within the boundaries of that circle of light, and in my meditation, I just hold space for myself to be with how I feel. And then remembering, so you're having gentle self-compassion for yourself as you're either creating in your circle or being in the space of your circle. And you are remembering that emotions are meant to come and go. It's part of being human. They come in. What we tend to do is hold on to them for a lifetime. And so just noticing what you are feeling, and you can be using your breath just to be releasing into the atmosphere where it fizzles, or as you're painting or creating, you can just be using your breath to channel that heaviness into the paint where it just kind of fizzles. But whether you're creating inside a circle, putting a circle on your wall that you remember, putting a little circle of stones on your bureau or in your yard, or simply every day or once a week, you just take time to sit down, imagine a circle in your mind, imagine stepping into it, and then just in your imagination, you're just holding space to be with how you feel. Either one is fine. Or doing some poetry in that space. And then when you're done holding space for that, you step out of it. If you have created something, so you may have raw creation, a lot of times I will hang it on my wall or put it on my bureau, and I just sit with it. I sit with the discomfort. I come back to it. I come back to it. I come back to it until I don't feel the emotional pull anymore. So number one is just setting time and space for you to be with yourself in your wholeness. The circle is beautiful because it represents wholeness. Universe, Mother Earth. Another wonderful tip is just go outside and be in nature. Be with Mother Earth and connect to what is bigger than you. That's my words of wisdom for how to step in. It's just find some kind of a practice that you're going to start to create for your grounding space, so that as you go about your life, all these old beliefs and patterns are going to start to loosen, and your head's going to be going, wait a minute, but your heart is going to be guiding you, and it's going to be very clear and grounded because you took space to be with your truth.
Yeah.
You know?
And what I love is everything is so simple. And I know, like, because I guess intuitively have done some of this work. There's actually like more that you've opened up than I'm like, ooh, I want to explore that. Especially like revisiting artwork and like seeing what emotions come up and actually getting
Yes.
to that. Because lately I've been like doodling more, which is interesting because that's also not like an art modality that I was like, yeah, I do that. Like I've always been drawn to music and writing and poetry. I remember I did draw a lot as a kid, and then my sisters are both amazing illustrators, amazing. And I think I created like some story that I was like, oh, because they're good at it, like I should just like stop and
Yeah.
not do it. And that was something that like reawakened recently that I'm like, you know what? It's actually more the merrier.
Exactly.
I'm like, why am I holding all this like um I don't want to say it's resentment, but maybe it's that conversation of good enough. Yeah, because when my younger sister got a lot stronger as a visual artist, like she's amazing. Like honestly, her artwork is so good that like as she got like better than how I could draw things, I was like, oh my gosh, my younger sister is better than me at this.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like held all this like, no way. So I was like, screw that, not doing that anymore. And like I realized too that I was like that choice to kind of squish that art expression actually disconnected me from nourishing an area that me and my sister actually had in common, because that could have been a really beautiful bonding thing that we could have done like growing up. I'm like, you know what, yeah, let's hang out and let's draw. and
Yeah.
and, and not feeling like I had to compete with her. I was also a competitive rhythmic gymnast, so perfectionist, competitiveness. It was like these are things instilled in a young age. So I'm just like getting really present to that, and I'm like, how beautiful would it have been if I had let go of all of that years ago. I mean, my sister could have just like hung out and drawn and just like, you know, like actually bonded in a space that both of us actually enjoy with, and just allowing it to be space for that. But then I like created all these things and I was like, oh my gosh, you have to get this because you're good, I'm bad. Like it was like, what? Why are we like our brains? Why do we complicate things so?
It's so true. I feel like sometimes it's like when we get in school and we go to art class and we're like drawing and then like somebody gets an A and you get a B. And you're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, I tried as hard as I could. Like, why did I feel like that happened for me of like, why am I
Mm.
getting judged and graded? And so as you're doing your artwork, it could simply be a practice of self-compassion, of just like being with your pure expression, which you may think is the ugliest, messiest, grossest thing ever. And then you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be with that feeling and how it connects to how you truly feel about who you are. And you're going to
Mm-hmm.
sit with it until it starts to shift into just loving this doodle that you hate, and then shifting into really just loving yourself,
Yeah.
and then you can, and loving your body. And you know, there's so many ways we block ourselves, and art is just a little doorway and a mirror to be with where you block yourself. And the other cool thing is like once you're aware, then you just make different choices. Like now you can
Yeah.
just go out there and be creative in every way you want to.
Yeah.
Just own it.
Yeah. And something you just got me present to is actually a little quick poetry piece of poetry that I had read like on Instagram a while back that I was like, this is so profound. Everybody needs to know about this. But it was essentially like, it just said, show me the parts of you that you do not love so I know where to begin. And I feel like this is what this is. It's like when you create something and you like hate what you created, it's like, well, why aren't you able to love this? And let's look into how you can learn to love this. Um, And I think that's such a powerful.
That is beautiful. You know, I feel like it's drilled in our heads. Be kind to other people, be compassionate, give. But
Mm.
it's like all the things we're talking about, a lot of people don't even consider it. I
Yeah.
love that. It's like, yeah, where do you begin? This is a doorway. This is information. What's being triggered is coming up for a reason because it
Hmm.
wants to be healed.
Yeah. Yeah. Our triggers are our mirrors. That was a huge thing that opened up for me last year. Um, I was like seeing this guy and I was like so judgmental of him. I was just like, oh my gosh, you've got like abandonment issues. You got this, you got that. And I made a whole list of stuff that I was like, oh, this is wrong with you. You need to fix it. And then when I really took a step back, I was like, oh my gosh, those are like everything I think is wrong of me. And that's why I'm seeing it in you.
Yeah.
And now it's like, show me the parts of you you do not love,
Yes.
so I know where to begin. And I
Yes,
was like,
you've
okay,
got
let's
it.
go there. Let's go there.
Yes. Which can be really painful to realize. Like at first it's like, oh my gosh, I've been projecting this outward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're
It's a
like,
lot
wow.
easier to do that until you realize you're doing it. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
There's so many moments I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a fucking asshole. And I'm like, no, I've been a good girl my whole life. And I'm like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure. And it comes back to what you were saying earlier, like holding space to just be honest.
Yeah.
And not making yourself wrong with it. Like I remember like that was the hardest thing for me to say, to be like, wow, there's moments that you're really bitchy. Like there's really moments that you are. And I could not say that like about myself for the longest time. And then the moment I said it, it was almost like I just made it okay. I didn't make it wrong. I mean, obviously you shouldn't be bitchy. Okay, no, I'm stepping right back into it. um,
But it's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time, is what you're
yeah.
saying. Yeah.
And there's power in embracing the parts of you that you don't love.
Yeah. Yeah. We disown parts of ourselves. And so, yeah, it's just bringing them into the light and
Mm-hmm.
loving them because every human has all these light and shadow parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Self compassion is just loving all of them
Yeah.
because we're human.
Love is love.
Love
Love
is
it
love.
all. It's so cheesy. Well, it's not really because it's profoundly true, but it feels like it's so cheesy because, everybody's saying like love is love, one love, so it kind of gets like diluted in this like rah rah
Right.
like thing, but it's so true, man. Love is love. Love yourself. Love everybody else.
Yeah, and if you sit with love with what you created or just how you feel, love will eventually help these patterns and things to shift. But
And
yeah.
there's such an evolution and unfolding too, I find, when it comes to love. It's like you hit like this moment and you're like, yeah, I know what love is. And then you're like, what the heck? I know absolutely nothing about what love is. And then like a whole new thing opens up. And you're like, it's just like this constant thing of like, oh, now I know what love is. And then something new opens up. You're like, wow, I have no idea what love is. And then you're like, oh, now I know.
It's true.
Um,
And then you have moments where you tap into the bigness of it and it's like it's so big, like you don't even know what to do with it.
yeah,
Like
so you're like, tap out.
and you're like, well, other people understand. Like, yeah.
I wasn't ready when I tapped in. Tap out. No, but it's so beautiful when you like tap in and just embrace the bigness and embracing that bigness is the essence of you. Something I'm getting so present to is like that like in church, like I was brought up like Roman Catholic. And so we were taught like that we were created in the likeness and the image of God. And I always like connected God as like the creator. That message really resonated with me. There's a lot in like the Roman Catholic Church that does not, but that was like, yes, that is a resounding truth to me. Like God is the creator, and if we're created in the likeness of the creator, then we must be creators. And then I was like, when I really think of like what is the essence of God, I'm always like, well, it's just the purest embodiment of love. And so if we are also in the likeness of that, then we must be creators of love. I was like, yeah. Mic drop.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And it really starts with the self. Like
Yeah.
it's it's so easy to be like, oh, you're just being selfish.
Mhm. That's what we're told.
Yeah, we're not. It's like prioritizing the self so that we're always like embodying ourselves as whole. Like you were saying before, it was like, just be present that you're already whole. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. You're already whole. It's when we don't embody that wholeness that we like create all of these problems. And so
Right.
self-love is like restoring. Look at that, the circles. We're all coming back to circles.
The circles, the hearts.
Is restoring that you are whole.
And where do you block yourself? So we're doing it to ourselves. I guess that's, when you ask, like, how do we create our own healing? It's really noticing where are we blocking ourselves
Mm-hmm.
from being connected to the world around us, from being connected to the energy of love and life.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it to ourselves. We just don't know it. We don't realize it. It's out of our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So we must find what is blocking it, whatever avenue that is.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes we think like healing takes a long time, or like transformation takes a long time. I feel like that's something that goes on, but I feel like emotional shifts, like you can really just transform yourself in a short amount of time. And like, speaking of time, we're also running out of time for this interview. So to like kind of sum it up, is there any other like creative practices that people can start with that just takes a little bit of time? Because I know a big excuse is like, or maybe it's not an excuse, maybe it really is your truth that like your schedules are just really packed, you're working a full-time job, maybe you're a parent, like there genuinely is a lot going on. And the beauty is it doesn't take a lot of time to shift and get back into that wholeness. So are there any practices that you could share that we could do that are like 5 minutes or less, or like just a short amount of time?
Well, I love that you're bringing this up. So I mentioned creating a circle and sitting with it and imagine being in the space. And my free gift, which let me just talk about the free gift as well and kind of tie it in. So my website is Conscious Art Therapy. And so when you go to the free gift link, it will bring you to my blog, where when you sign up for my blog, I will send you some practices to enhance your ability to feel self-compassion, to open up to self-love and to bigger love in general. So I guess what I would recommend is, it just goes back to what we talked about for now. So read those exercises, practice those. They're very simple. They can be done in 2 minutes. But just find ways every day to get curious and to create little anchors for yourself to remember what you're learning. You could write a word, but it's like we have to remember what we're working on, remember what we're learning, because it's so easy just to go back into these old patterns that we're living. So I guess it's just really making the effort to be conscious. Oh, I'll tell you one. I can't show you in here, but I have created like little eyeballs. So I have a little eyeball that I put in my office. I have a little eyeball that I have at home. I just put an eyeball in my living room. And when I look at the eyeball, it just reminds me to have a higher vision, to see bigger than what I'm in right now. So that's an example of a little anchor. You could do the circle. You could stick an eyeball somewhere. When you look at the eyeball, oh my goodness,
Eyeball.
Your subconscious mind. So you're creating your eyeball consciously to remind you to see the bigger picture. And then when you look at this little eyeball, you're just going to take a moment and you're just going to expand. And you can even imagine yourself as this eagle kind of rising above your life. And you see the bigger picture. You rise above and you see the truth. You rise above and you connect to love. You rise a little bit out of humanness and connect to something bigger than yourself. And then you step into your day with your heart wide open. So that's an example of something little, but in your own meditations, let other symbols come through or other teachings come through. They're coming through us. Mm-hmm. So I feel like the world, the archetypal world, is coming through us and wants us to learn from it and heal. We just have to take time with it. And I love that you have an eyeball right there.
I know. I was like, an eyeball. When I have an eyeball.
That's perfect.
I love it.
Yay. So yeah, connect with the eyeball.
Yeah, actually, my speakers kind of look like eyeballs too.
They do. was staring at me.
Yeah. Super cool. And I don't know if people were like picking up through this, but like definitely before we started, my energy was kind of like low. Like I just woke up, I just pulled an all-nighter. I was like working on something I needed to submit and I was late. And I can feel it in myself, even just like having these conversations of being present to like self-love and feeling whole. Like I could feel myself like I was kind of like I wasn't here. Like there was moments that I wasn't here with you, you know? And then I was like, whoa, 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 why am I gone? Like get back, get back.
Mhm.
And then like I was like, okay. And then like halfway through the conversation, I'm like, okay, we're here. um, and I think even like this too, like even like creating this and like putting this project together and like just putting ourselves out there in this way, it's like I could have so easily like went down like this spiral of like, oh my gosh, why did you take so long to like ask a question over there? And then like just like create all of that and end up like going there. But like as we continue to talk about like self-love, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like okay, we're here. Take a couple of seconds to think. Like take a couple of seconds to like take it in. It's okay. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
And I just kept coming back to like everything we're gonna talk about is bringing value to everybody that's hearing it. And so I was like, okay, we're here. We're here. I love ya. I love this. I love everything. Like love. Return to love.
That's
And
right.
everything is A-okay. I love it. Okay, so before we completely wrap up, Bodhi, what would you say is your like a spiritual superpower? Like if
Oh
you
my
could be like,
goodness.
you know, like you had a
My spiritual superpower.
yeah.
Okay. It's the eyeball. It's rising above and having vision,
Vision.
taking space for vision.
Powerful. Powerful.
And creativity. Vision and creativity.
I love it. Well,
And
thank you.
love.
I love, yeah. You know what's so funny? Like growing up, I used to watch like Captain Planet, and they had like all the different elements, right? Like water, earth, fire,
Mhm.
and wind. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then they had that one kid who was like, love, or like heart. He was like, I'm
Oh
heart,
yes.
you know? And for the longest time when I was a kid, I was like, heart. Heart is not a superpower. Like all the elements, I was like, I get it. Like, you know, it's like you can manipulate water, you can do this, you can do that. And I was like, heart. But no, like the more you really go into like this journey of like self-love and
Mhm.
choosing to be compassionate and choosing to let go of judgments of yourself, let go of judgments of other people, and just like not allowing that to be in your space anymore because it really none of that belongs here.
Mhm.
um, all that really belongs is an abundance of love, and that really is a superpower because you just when you have that, the way you just interact with the world is so different.
I can feel it. Even just like sitting here with us connecting to the superpower of love. And you're doing this, I felt like love was like beaming out to anybody that's watching this and
Yeah, I
like
should put like special effects if like
yeah. I know it's hard to personify a spiritual superpower, and I love love because it's like bigger than us.
mm-hmm. Yeah, oh my gosh, so much bigger.
Yeah.
Intergalactic.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. This is so beautiful.
And thank you so much for holding space for this conversation. Um, definitely opened up a lot for me. I like got so introspective in this conversation that for a moment I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing an interview here. Like, let's keep this going. So thank you, because it really, really did open up a lot for me. And I know it's opening up a lot for everybody that's listening too. So thank you so much, Bodhi, for being here. And thank you so much for what you do. It's truly such a gift. So thank you.
Well, you too. Right back at you.
Aw, mwah, all this love. Maybe that's why I wore red today to remind me of
That's right.
love. Um, so, alrighty, this concludes this conscious conversation on creativity. What do I want to end this off with? I usually say create powerfully, and I want to add, I don't know what I want to add. Love is love, man. Love is love. Spread more love. We need more love. We already have love. Just receive it so you can get more of it. Let's do that. Okay. Alrighty. Take care and keep creating. Bye.